Yeah, the economy here is incredibly highly dollarized. So about 85–90% of transactions occur in US dollars. So if I go to Starbucks on the street, I pay in US dollars, and the price is usually quoted in all shops in US dollars.
Hey everyone, Darren here. Today, we're going to cover the Cambodia real estate market. In recent years, there are more people from foreign countries interested in the market itself. As there aren't that much information on this topic on the web, we think it's a great idea to have someone like James to tell you more about it. He's a real estate broker from Cambodia who's focused on advising overseas investors on income-generating assets. Without further ado, please meet James. Thank you. So hey James, welcome to the show.
Hi, great to be here.
Yeah, so I think, so it was Tom Parker from Colliers that suggested me to reach out to you because I'm trying to find someone from Cambodia that understands the real estate.
Good to be speaking to you today here from.
Well, he's actually, I think he's getting on a show next week. And then, it's a pleasure because I told you before on the phone, I've never been to Cambodia before. And then I have never, I don't know how it's like. So it's very easy for me to come up with questions that other audience might be wondering as well. So before we go into the questions, right, would you mind telling the audience about yourself and your work?
Yeah, sure. So I've been here now in Cambodia for 4 years. I'm originally from the UK. I have a commercial real estate degree. And I was working in commercial real estate in just north of London for several years before coming out to Cambodia. So I've been here with CBRE now since 2016. I lead the advisory and transaction services team, so the commercial brokerage side of our business, as well as looking after our research consulting and the property management departments. So quite a broad range of different skills that sit under me, and I get a pretty good overview of the market, different projects, different clients, get to see a lot of Cambodia. So it's a very exciting role, and what we find generally with Cambodia is that there's a huge amount of opportunity. It's just finding it, understanding it in depth, and then really delivering it in this market. So, some audience and myself, as I mentioned before, may not know much about the different regions in Cambodia. Would you mind if you could briefly describe the city and how it's made up, and what are some few areas that overseas investors tend to look into? Sure. So Phnom Penh is the capital of Cambodia. Phnom Penh itself has got a number of different districts within it, but really we'd characterize these as 4 districts, which are the traditional residential and commercial heart of the city. So we have the CBD location, which is around the Phnom Penh district, which is also the tourist hub of the city. And then we have residential districts, which are clustered close to that. And they're quite high-rise in nature. So we've got a number of condominium projects, and those traditionally have been where international investors have focused their attention. So the condominium sector here in Cambodia is quite accessible for foreigners. They're allowed to own them on an effective freehold. So it's called a strata title. And then now what we're seeing is a bit of diversification in terms of geography and asset types which are available to foreigners here. So the secondary districts on the edge of the city are becoming more popular. We see more affordable and mid-range projects out on the edge of Phnom Penh. And you can find some really attractive projects with great pricing in those locations, and the amenities and facilities are also improving in those districts. So they're becoming quite attractive to both investors and to Cambodian buyers. And we're also seeing diversification in the asset classes. So we've seen a couple of strata title retail projects which are available to foreign buyers. And we're also seeing quite a number of what we call strata title office, which is like a condo-fied office building where you can buy sections of that building, principally for investment purposes, but increasingly also for own occupation here.
So, the market has become a very hot topic, even among my circles. A lot of people keep telling me that they have bought something from Cambodia, and then a lot of people look into it. And what is the reason behind this trend? And how do you think it's going to evolve during the next couple of years?
Sure. So I think when we look across Asia now, you look at Cambodia's neighboring countries, Vietnam and Thailand in particular, you see that those markets have developed significantly and are heading towards more of a developed nation status, similar to what we see in Hong Kong and Singapore and Malaysia, where the pricing and the development status of those cities has already got quite some way beyond where we are in Cambodia. So here we're more of an emerging market. That presents a number of opportunities. So the city's still growing very rapidly. The supply of condominiums in actuality is not too great. So there are still opportunities in terms of the way that people are living and how they occupy residential buildings. They're still very much tied to landed property and villas, shop house formats, but that is changing. So as young generations come through and their spending power grows, their lifestyle aspirations change, then they are starting to look at renting or even buying condominium units or living in serviced apartment blocks. As well as that, the commercial aspects of the city are growing very rapidly. And Cambodia has been growing at 7% a year on average since the global financial crisis, so a decade of very sustained, very high growth. And that has really caused quite a big change, both in terms of the way that people are living as locals, but also in the economy of the country and the businesses that are here and the type of people that they're attracting from overseas to live and invest in Cambodia. So a number of different drivers behind these trends. You can still pick up apartments here for less than $100,000 US. The pricing is pretty reasonable. The offering is becoming more and more competitive from the developers, so the quality of what is being built and designed here is definitely improving quite rapidly. So I think investors are seeing something which is a little bit untapped, a little bit different as a way of diversifying and just doing something a little bit different. And the risk is, for most other Asian investors, is not too high because the price of accessing this market is quite low. All the assets here, every real estate transaction is done in US dollars, which can also be quite an attractive proposition for many.
So even for the locals, right, when they're doing the transaction, are they also using US dollars or their local dollars currencies?
Yeah, the economy here is incredibly highly dollarized, so about 85-90% of transactions occur in US dollars. So if I go to Starbucks on the street, I pay in US dollars and the price is usually quoted in all shops in US dollars. There is a bit of a push towards de-dollarization, but that's going to take some time. And certainly for now, every price that you see, whether it's rent or buy, will be in US dollars, and most bank accounts will be in US dollars as well.
So what's the relationship like among countries? Because Cambodia is situated in the middle, and then how does Cambodia set for potential growth when, in terms of like the relationship among the different countries?
Sure. So Cambodia is incredibly well aligned with China at the moment. They're very close allies, and we see a lot of investment flow between the two. So Cambodia is an important ally of China, vice versa. So that has been the mainstay of investment moving over the last 3 years. But also there's a huge amount of diversification. We have a lot of Singaporean projects. We have a number of high-profile projects from developers in Hong Kong. We see a number of Korean, Japanese, Malaysian investment too, as well as from Europe and the US. So it's quite diverse. Cambodia is typically pragmatic in the way that it looks at attracting foreign investment and likes to go out and try and draw it in from multiple different sources, and is very welcoming to overseas investment from various countries. Yeah.
So to give a better idea to the audience regarding tenancy, how's it like to live in Cambodia since you've been there for a couple years now? And then how's the culture like for both local and expats? Like, would you mind paint a picture for us on that regard?
Sure. It's a great place to be living. The opportunities out here are vast. A lot of the markets are growing very quickly and largely untapped. So there's a lot of innovation. The population is very young, so there's a lot of new technology adoption, which is helping Cambodia to leapfrog certain steps in development. For example, things like cashless payment and blockchain are quite common here now as part of everyday life. You do see these things coming to the fore more and more, and it changes every 6 months with new innovation which has come in and been adopted by the local youth. They surprise me all the time. I feel like a bit of a dinosaur sometimes. And in terms of lifestyle, the number of things to do, shopping malls to go to, places to hang out with friends, the cafes, bars, restaurants, that scene really is improving and growing all the time. So there's really good amenities now for anyone who's living here. The apartments that we've got in the city generally have good facilities as well, and the work opportunities are huge. There's a whole range of different things to look at doing here. So lifestyle is, I would say, work hard, play hard.
That's good. How would you suggest differently if an investor that are planning to self-use or investment only?
Sure. Typically, the foreign investors have stayed in the core central districts, and they would generally go for mid-range or high-end. And that has been driven by the fact that expatriates who live and occupy the majority of high-rise residential, typical condominium format, they have lived close to their place of work in the center of the city. We do see some changes to that now as transport solutions get better, roads in particular improving. We are seeing some diversification of where expatriates would choose to live, and that really is because of the proliferation as well as road transporters. The amenities that are available on their doorstep, particularly in the north of the city, and in the future we think also to the south, where there are a number of retail amenities that are coming up. But typically so far for investors, it's really been the core center of the city. For those looking to buy to live, so they would be occupying themselves, I think location is generally less of a concern for them. They may be more tied to how quickly is it for me to get to my specific place of work, but they are more likely to be looking at things like the amenities and the property management side of the asset, really getting into the depths of the developer's track record, which is something for everyone that we would say is a key thing to be looking at here.
I see. Like, what kind of suggestions or tips do you have for the audience? Is there anything they should be aware when investing in the Cambodia real estate market?
Yeah, so like I just mentioned, property management is critical. So the market here is really young, and it's important to make sure that the person who's building your future home or your investment understands and really has thought about and looked at how they're going to manage that building for the long term. As well as that, just checking up on the developer's track record. What have they built before? Are you satisfied with the quality of that? Is there any additional assurances that you need? One thing to note here in particular is regarding funding. So the majority of foreign purchasers, they would be looking at spending with cash, and often that would be tied to the construction progress of the project. Funding for foreign based investors from banks in Cambodia can be a little bit difficult to obtain. It's not very common to see. The banks are really only just getting into lending into the high-rise residential market. So that can be a little bit challenging to obtain if you need mortgage financing for a purchase.
I see. So, obviously COVID is a big topic. And then how did the COVID-19 impact the market? And then where are the opportunities for investor during a time like this?
Yep. So COVID-19 has certainly had some impacts. We've been very lucky here in Cambodia so far. We've only had 141 cases to date. I'm sure that will have changed by the time this comes out, but it has been very well contained and controlled to date by the government, so their policies have worked in regards to restricting inflow of travellers. However, it has caused some disruption to the market, of course. We've seen quite a large proportion of expatriates leave the country to go back home during this period of time, and that has weakened the rental market. So we've seen quite steep falls over the last 3 months in terms of rent, somewhere between 5 a little bit more in the service department sector. So that has placed some pressure on the pricing of condominium units because of obviously the function between the rent and the price. But we have seen some developers in particular responding with some quite attractive deals. So it's a good time to be looking. There are a number of projects that have launched new phases over the last 3 months or launched new projects, and they have been able to offer quite nice, attractive pricing options. But overall, the condominium sector pricing has not adjusted significantly yet. We're just waiting to see over the next 3 months how things transpire. But so far, things look to be relatively robust compared to some of our neighboring markets.
I see. So for the interview so far, we cover a lot about residential. And what other asset types, investment strategies, and areas that has shown potential so far?
Yeah, so in terms of locations, Siem Reap and Sihanoukville are other locations which are looked at principally for investment here. And Sihanoukville over the last few years has been a favorite of Chinese investors. Siem Reap is more of an emerging investment location, and that has heavily in the past focused on hospitality because of its proximity to Angkor Wat. So we're seeing some diversification of the offering in terms of the asset types. A few developers here are offering types like condotel. There's a couple of condotel projects here in Phnom Penh, and some of them have got attractive branded operators like Citadines behind them, which is quite an interesting difference that someone might look at if they're purely looking for investment rather than own occupation. There's a few projects down in smaller towns on the coast as well. So there's a town to the south of Cambodia, it's called Kampot, and there are some hospitality focused projects which are available for foreign purchasers in that location, which look amazing, very attractive design and good quality. It's kind of an emerging investment type. Typically for Cambodians, they love to invest in land. So we do see quite a lot of strength in the land market still, despite the impacts of COVID-19. And the returns on land prices here in Phnom Penh can be significant. So that has been a very lucrative market for many over the last few years. Beyond that, and I touched on a little bit earlier, there are a few strata title retail and strata title office markets if someone is looking to diversify into the commercial sector. In terms of larger scale commercial investment opportunities, hotels dominate that sector here in Cambodia. We see a few branded operators and the owner looking to dispose. However, in the other sectors, a lot of transactions happen off market. So it's good to have a chat with someone who understands the Phnom Penh real estate market and has good connections, they will be able to source opportunities that maybe are not so apparent to someone who's looking for a larger opportunity.
That's good. What kind of, like obviously we can go on more and more questions, but what kind of takeaway would you want the audience to have from this video?
I think Cambodia is one of those countries that is creeping up people's radars at the moment. There's a huge amount of opportunity here. It's a little bit different to some of our neighboring countries. So perhaps as an overseas investor, Vietnam and Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore in the past would have caught more attention. But the dynamics and the demographics of Cambodia is strength in GDP growth, the political stability that we've had here for such a long time, creates some quite interesting dynamics for the future, and might be an appealing option for diversification. And the pricing structures, the general asset pricing is quite affordable generally, so can be quite an accessible market as well.
I see. And for people who want to know more about the Cambodia real estate market, or talk more about different work, how we suggest people to reach out to you and talk to you more about that?
Yeah, sure. So you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Otherwise, do email me at CBRE, so james.hodge@cbre.com. Those are probably the best ways. I'm sure that they can reach out to you as well, Darren, and you'll put them in touch. So yeah, very happy to have a chat, as are my team here at CBRE Cambodia. And our website's got lots of resources on there around investments and some opportunities, of course. So cbre.com.kh is our web address. We do lots of research work, and we put out a lot of webinar content too. So if someone's interested in a certain topic, there will usually be an opportunity over the coming weeks or months to find out more about that if we haven't already. We have quite an extensive YouTube channel, so there's lots of webinar content on there as well.
Well, for sure, I'll put everything in the show notes, and then even the YouTube, because I didn't know the YouTube channel. It's kind of cool. And then I just want to say thanks for your time, because I think this interview is very condensed, very precise. So I really like that. And then I'm sure the audience will learn a lot from you for this whole video.
Thank you. It's been a great opportunity to chat to you and talk to you more about this market, which I'm so passionate about.
That's good. Anyway, thanks a lot for your time. And then hopefully there's part 2 next time then. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Darren. Bye.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching. What do you think of this episode? Please let us know in the comment below, and be sure to hit the subscribe button to keep in touch with us for upcoming videos. But before we go, I want to give a big shout out to Patina Design Lab. They're the one who help us in making our brand, our direction, as well as these videos. They are a strategic design consultancy firm to help businesses with a wide range of design services, from industrial design, branding, graphic design, art direction, content creation, and many more. They are a very talented bunch, and I urge you to check out their website for their work. That's all for today, and see you next time. Cheers.